The Holy Gospel according to St. Matthew, the 15th chapter.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus left that place and went away to the district of Tyre and Sidon. Just then, a Canaanite woman from that region came out and started shouting, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But he did not answer her at all. And his disciples came and urged him, saying, "Send her away, for she keeps shouting after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." He answered, "It is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed instantly. The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, O Christ.
Thanks for being here. I need your help. We have a gospel passage here that has challenged many people for a long time. Today we are going to think it through together for our sermon time. I'd like to give you a little background about where it takes place. Jesus and his disciples mostly stayed in the traditional territory of Israel and focused mainly on teaching and healing Jewish people like themselves. But in this story, Jesus takes his disciples out of familiar territory to the far northeast borderlands of the country. On the other side of the border were the territories of Tyre and Sidon. The people who lived there were Canaanites. They were a different group of people who were the religious and cultural arch enemy of the Jewish people. According to Jewish law, the Canaanites were not doing some things right. Their differences turned into name-calling, and so some Jewish people called the Canaanites dogs. In the time and place that Jesus is speaking, there is a mixed population of both Jewish and Canaanite, so there are representatives from each side who are listening. Okay, let's revisit the Bible passage. Just then, a Canaanite woman from that region came out and started shouting, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon." But Jesus did not answer her at all. And his disciples came and urged him, saying, "Send her away, for she keeps shouting after us." He answered, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him, saying, "Lord, help me." He answered, "It is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." She said, "Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table." Then Jesus answered her, "Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you as you wish." And her daughter was healed instantly. Okay, who else here thinks Jesus sounds kind of mean? I mean, here's this woman who desperately wants to have her daughter healed, and instead of welcoming her with an outward show of love and compassion, Jesus lets the disciples tell her to go away. Then he says that his call is to help only the house of Israel. Then he indirectly refers to her as a dog. And she seems to turn it all around when she makes a quick-witted reply and says, "Even the dogs, Lord, eat the crumbs from the master's table." It would help to hear how Jesus said what he said, to hear the tone he's using, or even see which direction he's looking when he says it. It would help if we could see the scene take place, like in a play. We are going to think about this story out loud, and to help us imagine how the conversation might have gone, please welcome our resident actors. Okay, so Jesus is traveling along the road with his disciples, and a Canaanite person catches up with them.
Have mercy on me. Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is tormented by a demon.
Note how this Canaanite woman addresses Jesus as Lord and Son of David. This is a powerful statement of faith that Jesus is the Messiah. What does Jesus do? Right, he says nothing. What's going through his head? Where do you think he is looking? Maybe he's looking at the disciples. Why would Jesus turn to the disciples? Because he did that all the time. When people came to Jesus for help, frequently he would look to the disciples first to prompt them for a response. Asking challenging questions to get people to think was how Jesus typically trained people to be leaders. So when he didn't say anything to the Canaanite woman and just looked at his disciples, his look may have meant, "What do you think we should do?" So how did the disciples respond?
Go away, dog. This is our country. Go back to Canaan.
Ooh, it's a Canaanite. They're unclean, just like dogs.
We don't serve your kind here.
Plus, we're closed for business today. Jesus is tired. He's been healing lots of people.
Jesus only does miracles for people like us.
Now, how do you think the Canaanite woman feels? How do you think Jesus felt about what they said? Disappointed? Angry? Probably. But does he tell them that? No. That's right, he doesn't tell them. Instead, he says, "I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Which way do you think he's facing? Who is he talking to? To the disciples. So, I was sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel then? Really? In other words, he was prompting them to think through what they were saying. He wasn't being mean to the Canaanite woman at all. What makes us think he was talking like this to the disciples? Maybe because of what the Canaanite woman did next. The Canaanite was feeling pretty discouraged by what the disciples said, but she realized that Jesus is trying to help. So instead of running away, she moves in closer and speaks directly to Jesus.
Help me, Lord.
Jesus says to the disciples, "It is not fair to take the children's food and throw it to the dogs." Jesus wasn't afraid to push people a little here to get them thinking. And that is what he is doing here. He is pitching their own attitude right back at them, letting them hear how it sounds. How do you think they are feeling now? Yeah, I think that about now the disciples are starting to look down and shuffle their feet. So Jesus has made his point. The disciples know they will hear more from Jesus about this later. And the Canaanite woman is on board now, playing right along with Jesus.
Yes, Lord, yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from their master's table.
And Jesus replies,
Woman, great is your faith. Let it be done for you now.
and instantly her daughter was healed. Yes, the disciples will hear more about this subject from Jesus later. Because as we know, when Jesus dies on the cross, it will be for the whole world, not just for the people like them. And after he has risen from the dead, he will commission them to take the message of salvation to the whole world, not just people like them. And the disciples will be heading up a church that within a few short years will be composed of mostly foreigners. So these disciples had better start opening up their minds and their hearts right now. Jesus is looking at us right now because we are the disciples. We are the leaders now. Together with Jesus, we can make a miracle. Amen.